Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Today's word is a tirade. Now, a tirade is when somebody starts talking at great length negatively about a thing they don't like. Now, probably just like me, you have a friend who often goes on tirades and doesn't shut up. It can be very annoying. You go out for a quiet evening or a quiet dinner, you mention something, and the next thing you know, you're pulled into this big, long speech, and you think, oh, I'm sorry I mentioned that particular thing. And it kind of spoils the evening. A tirade is a long, angry speech of criticism, negativity, accusation. Usually, it involves someone speaking passionately about a particular topic. They might be talking in a way that shows frustration, dissatisfaction, or a strong set of beliefs against something. In the workplace, that can be particularly annoying. If you have a colleague like that, it might mean that the person is fired or at least disciplined because they talk so loudly and completely over the top. It's usually describing a very lengthy speech when the speaker almost loses control of his emotions or just doesn't understand how he's speaking because he becomes a bit too passionate. Here's some examples to use the word tirade. The manager's tirade about timekeeping left the whole team feeling demoralized. My friend's tirade at the dinner party left me feeling sad and embarrassed. During the meeting, my colleague went on a tirade about the company's performance. After the football match, the coach's tirade about the referee could be heard all over the stadium. So you can go on a tirade, you can launch a tirade. There's different ways you can use it, and only with practice will it get better. Now, one story, just to demonstrate what a tirade is, one story that's in our media today is about one of the cousins of our king. He's ran away, and the police are searching for him because he threatened to kill someone, and he also went on a racist tirade at McDonald's. His name is Rowan Lascelles, and his great-grandmother was the daughter of George the Sixth, it says here. But that can't be right, because if his great-grandmother was a daughter of George the Sixth, that would mean that it would be the Queen's sister's family. So I think they've made a bit of a mistake here. But anyway, it looks like it's the first cousin or the second cousin of our Queen. And so it's the second cousin or the third cousin of King Charles. And apparently he's having problems. He was convicted of aggravated harassment and causing fear of violence. So he ran away after he did these bad things, but the court met and convicted him even though they can't find him. He's 46 years old, and it says that he already said he was guilty of smashing 2 office windows in Westminster and for destroying a police cell. My goodness me, how do you destroy a police cell? And he's also admitted incidents of harassment and assault at different places around London. He's 68th in line to become king, so that's not going to happen. And he is a persistent offender who often causes problems in public. He failed to appear at his court case, and so the judge has issued a warrant to catch him and put him into prison. And they heard evidence that this man, the king's cousin, was threatening to kill somebody, and also his behavior with regards to racism was really bad as well. It goes on to say that over the years, he's made homophobic and racist remarks after running into a McDonald's in the past. They also believe that he's done other things as well, and they want to talk to him. So he'll be going to prison for using threatening words to cause fear of violence during one of his tirades, assault by beating, racially aggravated harassment, and he's accused of doing that twice, criminal damage 3 times, and one of those times was a police cell. A cell is where they hold you. I'm not sure how you could destroy a police cell. I mean, police cells, aren't they usually made of brick and stone with big metal doors? And he also used threatening words to cause harassment in one of his other tirades. So that tells you about tirades and what a tirade is. A tirade doesn't have to be aggressive or angry. You know, I love poetry, and I was reading a poem yesterday, and it was just a tirade of negativity. It was awful. I couldn't even finish it. By the way, speaking of poetry, today is World Poetry Day. So if you like writing poetry, or if you like English poetry, this is a great day to celebrate. I love poetry. And these last months, I've been uploading loads of different types of poetry to my website. So you must take a look at that if you like poetry. Poetry is often just a tirade of emotions. I don't like poetry like that. I like to write positive poetry to give people hope. I like to motivate people with poetry. You can change the world with poetry. And I know that in some places in the world, poetry is seen as something very special. Unfortunately, here in the UK, poetry is no longer celebrated. It's something of the past. It's something which is seen as being very particular or specialized. And, well, from my experience, people tend to laugh at those people who write poetry. It's like they're saying, well, go and get a proper job. Don't waste my time writing. Go and do something that earns you some money. Because poetry is very creative and it doesn't fit into this capitalist mindset. So a lot of people are just too busy to pay attention to something like poetry. I was talking to someone yesterday about this Kate gate scandal, which seems to be getting bigger and bigger. The media is now saying that someone's tried to access Kate's medical records at the hospital. And in fact, 3 staff members at the hospital have been disciplined or are being looked at by the police and by the hospital because they tried to access Kate's medical records. Now, we don't know why they tried to access them, but it's created another big storm. I was talking to my friend yesterday about this, and he went on this tirade about how nobody's tried to access the king's medical records. And he was really upset. And really, he wasn't shouting, but he started to raise his voice. Nobody cares about the king's health. Why should she get all the attention? And I'm thinking, oh, I don't really think I care enough about either of them to worry about it. And then I made a little comment in my mind. Note for later, never mention the royals to my friend. But I think when you're having a story pushed in front of you almost every day, then you begin to react with a view about it. But it is true, and I suppose a little bit amusing, that nobody's tried to access the king's records to find out what cancer he has. It seems that people are only interested in Kate. So very interesting, very interesting. But who cares, really? But it does show where the level of interest is. I know that poetry is probably something which is not easily translatable. It's not something you can easily translate between languages. So I'm not going to bore you with any of my poems today because it probably isn't something that you would want to hear. But what I do want to tell you is that I've been trying to read some fiction. Now, for those of you who know me, you'll know that I don't often read fiction. I prefer reference books. I prefer stuff about learning and motivation and self-help books and these things. But yesterday, I picked up one of the Hardy Boys books. For those of you who don't know, the Hardy Boys is a type of novel which is a detective novel. It's 2 boys, they're brothers, they're very well known. The Hardy Boys, I think, have been around since the 1920s. But this particular book is from the 1990s. It's called The Robot's Revenge by the Hardy Boys. So if you're into that, if you think it might be something that you want to read, it's very easy to read. It's made for teenagers. It's not an adult book. So it's not complex. It would be very good for your English. I'm going through it, and so far, very, very simple. I think you would like it. The Robot's Revenge, The Hardy Boys, Robot's Revenge. And the author, I don't remember his name. Give me a second and I'll just get it for you. Yes, the name of the author is Franklin W. Dixon, The Robot's Revenge. Some of the older Hardy Boys mysteries are in the public domain, so you should be able to get some of those, I think, without worrying about copyright. But there was a big dispute, I think, over who wrote them. But anyway, the Hardy Boys, very famous, especially the later ones. And there was a movie and TV show made about the Hardy Boys as well. So very good. So if you're looking for a good read today, something that's fairly simple, the Hardy Boys is something you should think about. And the particular book I chose to read is called The Robot's Revenge. It's written for older teenagers and for people with short attention spans like me. I haven't read The Hardy Boys since I was a kid, and I didn't know people were still writing them. I mean, this one's from the 1990s. So, The Hardy Boys and Robot's Revenge is a good book recommendation for you today. That's it from me. See you all soon. Bye.